Sean, first off, I love Vindicta. It's a story that really can seem a little bit futuristic, but it's set in present day with a suspense thriller vibe to it. Was the mix of genres a big appeal for you as far as tackling on this latest project?
Well, definitely. And I'm, just dabbling right now in the horror genre. And, the script came to me and coming up with a bad guy that is like original. That was the key for me. And I got the chance to go with my family to Italy and see Michelangelo's David. And I was just like looking at his face going, that would be amazing if we could somehow make that, I like all the Freddy movies, all the movies where there's a white mask that always scare you when they see it. And I thought if this could be a franchise, if we could make David be a scary character as opposed to, one that's a lovable character. So that was really fun to figure out how to do that.
I interviewed Elena Kampouris about a year and a half ago for Wi-Fi, and the thing that popped out was she's a definite star, in my opinion. Obviously, what you know better than me because you guys were collaborators. What do you see in her? And great job on adding the Mandarin into the script and the story because she spoke Mandarin to me during the interview a little bit. So that's awesome on your part too. So
very cool. Well, you're absolutely right, and you discovered her early. I had a lunch with her the year before. I was doing another horror movie. And she sat across the table from me, and it just that presence she has. I told the producer, I said she's going to win an Academy Award one day. You just know it. You just have that ability to know with certain people, and she just is entertaining and she's fun and she can be bigger than life, but she can also get really small. And she's in the My Big Fat Greek Wedding 2 and 3 that just came out, and I saw that she's just super talented. And so she's a star, and you saw her early because we're going to see a lot of things from her.
Yeah, did you know that she spoke Mandarin during just meeting her, and then you said like, let's put some of that in, and the physicality, which is great because I'm assuming a lot of that stuff was hers too because she really seems like she trained for the role too.
So two things. First of all, when I met her and she was going to do the part, she let me know that she spoke Mandarin, and she showed me these videos of her learning these fight things and all this stuff. So I said, let's put that in the movie. So we rewrote the movie to have that in there. That was not in the original draft. But how often do you get an actress who can do that? And she completely blew me away. And what's funny, she's in Italy right now doing another movie, and she had to learn the piano for this movie. So she sent me a video the other day of this massive, like 5-minute piece. And I don't think she played the piano before that. Maybe she played a little bit of it, but she learned it so they can film her live. So she's that kind of an actress where if she can do it, she wants to put that out to the public in the movie she does.
With Vindicta, it seems that there's so many different kind of visual setups that you're obviously experienced at what you do. But what was the biggest challenge for this? Because for me as a cinephile, I'm thinking, how are you able to pull off so many I love the stuff work with the camera, but also the visual setups and the location seem to be a very big kind of deal and big challenge for you for this project.
So I always try to approach movies to go, what haven't we seen before in movies? That's like where I go to the writer, and Ian is a great writer. And I was like kind of going, what can we put in this movie that has never been seen before? So when we got into it and we got into like the whole Greek mythology and I also on that trip, I went to Malta and I saw a prison where they had these torture devices. And so one of like the torture devices is like the head crusher or the thing that goes in the mouth. And so I'm like seeing these things going, I haven't seen that in a movie before. Let's see if we can't figure out how to put this in. And I remember just walking through the museum in Malta going, oh, this is just so gross and scary. Let's film it. So that's why we just brought these things into the script. And Ian was great. He was like game to put anything we wanted into the movie. So it was fantastic.
John, as a movie fan, I get to enjoy the different genres you tackle. But if I try to think of the other side and I look at your body of work and your resume, I just get absolutely stressed because I wonder how are you able to, with so many people you work with from project to project, the collaborators, along with so many projects you have lined up in the future, how are you able to handle and manage your stress levels, and B, how are you able to just juggle so many things? Is there an unlock, or because I have no idea?
Well, what's interesting is I probably do 2 to 3 movies a year or a television episode, but it takes trying to get going about 10. Like what you see is the, the 20% that actually gets made. And I just love what I do. And there's no time clock on it. Like I work on weekends, I work on holidays. Now, what I have the advantage of is I can take days off in the week if something else comes in. But when you love it, it comes naturally. And I try to like work with people who also love to do what they do. So is it stressful? Yeah, because, the clock is running, but there's like a rhythm to it. Pre-production, you're figuring out who you're going to put in it, finding locations. And then shooting is really hard. That's 12-hour days where you're just going at it. But then there's posts where in the editing suite, I make sure there's a couch where I can be editing and then I can like take naps while the editor is putting like certain things together. So there's a rhythm to it that makes it work. But when you work with great people, I got to say it's easy. You just encourage their craft. And I can't do what any of my crew does. They're experts at it. All I say is I was thinking of this, and then they come up with the way of how we'll do it. And so when you have a great crew, that's how it de-stresses you and makes it work.
Is that part of maybe, Sean, for you, your success as far as just shooting a lot of films, different genres, and working with so many different people? Do you have to be kind of egoless in the sense of like creating art and cinema together, in the sense that like you're letting people, you're not imposing your vision on all these departments, you're actually working with them and actually putting your whatever pride or kind of that stuff aside? It's all about the project.
Well, you bring up a good point. I've always loved when I hear about directors who have the vision. And I mean, certain films maybe I've had, but there's a vision and we must follow the vision and everything's about that. My process is different. When I read a screenplay, when somebody sends me that, or I read an article in Wired magazine or something, I have an idea this would make a good movie. And then we either I write it or we get somebody to write it. And then that becomes the thing that we follow. But my thing is I have an idea of what it should be or where we'll shoot it. But when I bring in the production designer, which is the first layer, they come up with great ideas, and we could shoot this here, or we could go, like I did a film where we shot at Versailles, and I'm like talking, it's supposed to take place at Versailles, but I thought we should go over there and take some photographs. And then Versailles goes, you can actually shoot here. And you're like, whoa, wait a minute. They'll actually let us shoot at this location. So what I'm trying to say is the vision comes as we're making the movie, and we're always upping it. We're pushing for the extreme of what's possible. And now with CG, which I totally love, is everything's possible. It's just amazing what you can do now. So anything you do think of or your crew thinks of, you can execute, and it's photoreal. It looks completely real. So my vision is to bring these great collaborators, and first and foremost, ultimately, once you do get to the set, you get the actors there. They've done their homework. They have ideas. The costume designer, they've done their homework. They have ideas, and they bring it to you. And you're like a kid in a candy store. Oh, let's use this dress in this scene. Let's use this outfit in that scene. So to me, it's about bringing great people together and then collaboratively coming up with what the vision is.
And then there's no such thing as like my way or the highway. I love that whole idea. As kid in the candy store versus it's my highway and not nothing else. So I love that aspect.
I mean, look, if you're James Cameron and you had this vision of the abyss and there's things that nobody could have ever thought of, or George Lucas, but I even think he was collaborative. Like he brings in, model makers and comes up with ideas. I think that's the only way to really get a lot of great stuff, because you can only be an expert at so many fields. You need to get a crowd around you that really know their stuff, and they one up you. They can make this better, and that person inspires this person to do better. And then together, we all look at the screen at the end of the day and go, wow, everybody brought this idea up to a whole other level and made it cinematic.
So, Sean, a couple final questions. I believe Spare Parts was one of your films, right?
Yes, it was.
Okay, and yeah. So so you recommended that for the last time I interviewed you. I still haven't seen it. My co-host saw it and he said, "Oh my gosh, I love this movie." So the next follow-up question is, after Spare Parts, if we do the Sean McNamara Film Festival, what's the next movie that you feel is underrated that our listeners should watch, and why, from your body of work?
Well, it's interesting. I find all the work I do, if you look at it, it's pretty consistent. And so what I found is, depending on how much marketing comes out behind a movie, like Soul Surfer had tons of marketing, and so it reached a larger audience. In the sci-fi world, like The King's Daughter with Pierce Brosnan, that's a movie that, again, it was kind of coming out during the pandemic, and it was not released in the way that it originally was thought to be released. But that's a story about a mermaid living in Versailles. And so it's another fantasy film. And so that's one I think people should check out. The King's Daughter with Pierce Brosnan, Kaya Scodelario.
Cool. Final question is, what keeps you motivated as a filmmaker? Because you could easily take you. Well, I mean, you take some vacations now and again, but what keeps you? It's not. It seems like you're really not off the clock a lot of times. So, what keeps you motivated? Was it because you've always been a movie buff since you were a little kid, and it continues on today, or is it another element that just keeps you striving for more?
Well, it's funny. My dad gave me my first camera at 12 years old. We went to Ireland, and he gave me a Super 8 camera, and I started shooting. And it's just fun, and it affords me, it is a way to see the world. Like I do the same thing whether I'm shooting in LA or at Atlanta or in Australia, in Sydney or Melbourne. So like my life is in hotels and we go to these things, but then I get to go to these sets and meet these amazing people. And then I still, every time I watch a film, and believe me, I watch every film I do 100 times by the time the audience sees it, I still get moved by it. And I always said, if somebody would pay me to go to the movies, I would happily just go to the movies and watch, because I love watching movies so much. I wouldn't be a critic. I don't want to say good or bad. I just want it to roll over me and just move me like it does. But short of that, I get to go to the movies every day making a movie. I just see it in smaller bits and pieces and then help put the whole thing together.
Oh, thank you so much for your time. I really love your latest film, and looking forward to seeing you in several more months when your next film is out. I really love your stuff.
Keep an eye out for it, please. All right.
You have a good
Great
one. Thank you,
seeing
Sean.
again.
Take care.